So this isn't the easiest thing to talk about, or at least clarify my experience with the tips that I'm going to have at the end. Feel free to jump over to there if you want to skip this part. So basically, when I was in college, it was over the summer, and I had like really bad pain in my back, and I would kind of lose some feeling, but I didn't necessarily have an injury that would like spark that. So I went to an orthopedic, and he said, it's just some sciatica, here's some pills, whatever. I'm not much of a pill person, so I just, forget it. I didn't even fill the prescription. Power through it. Went back to school, and just continued to have issues, and one of my friends locally had a dad who was a chiropractor, and he says, go see my dad, see if he can, do something for you. I'm like, cool. So I went to see this chiropractor who probably saved my life. And so he checked me out, and I had me go side to side and do, I guess, some mobility assessment, did a mobility assessment, or whatever you call it. And he said, we're going to take some x-rays. So they had an x-ray thing there. They took the x-rays, and I waited for a little bit. It came back in, and I was expecting to, lay on the table, and they do the cracky thing, and then I'd be good to go. And he said, so he came in, and he's like, you don't need me, you need a surgeon. And I'm like, that is not what I wanted to hear. He says, you need a surgeon. And he recommended one that I saw in Michigan. It was in college in Michigan at the time, and he said, you're probably going to want to go home to have it done because the recovery is intensive, and he was not wrong. I came home, met with doctors here in Philly, and one of the things I said to the doctor before, I'm like, dude, does this really need surgery? And he says, well, and then he explained to me what was going on. It was a spondylolisthesis. I hope I'm not butchering that. I'm probably butchering it. But basically, if you think of your vertebrae, right, you have the vertebrae, and then there's like little hooks on the ends of the vertebrae that hold your vertebrae together. Well, my L5, I was born without those hooks. So my L5 was just kind of free floating in there. And, of course, through playing sports in high school, and I grew up on a farm, so I've been working, my whole life. And then, of course, working construction stuff during summers. None of that really helped, to be honest. But it was all, kind of ordained from birth, so to speak. But my L5 was kind of moving out. So you figure, here's the sacrum, here's the L5, or the fifth lumbar, and it was just kind of moving out. And so the doctor's like, if you don't have surgery, it's going to move out and sever your spinal cord. You'll get spinal meningitis and die. It's like, well, that's not good news. I probably should have the surgery then, shouldn't I? So, of course, I did. And it was a long recovery. But basically, I have some permanent restrictions. The most pertinent of which is, there's movement things that I'm just going to have, because I had a bunch of vertebrae fused together, and then there's rods and screws and all kinds of stuff going on back there. And so, but I can't lift anything more than 25 pounds. That's kind of the main restriction. So, needless to say, I'm not throwing around a 412 Marshall cab and a 100 watt head, right? That's not something that's happening. I've had to find out ways to play live that fit into that restriction. And there was one time I had the idea that, I was going to gig with I had an AC-15, man, and I'm going to go do a 2-hour set with my AC-15. Well, it was tough to get in to the venue, and of course I hurt myself getting in, and I played and sang, by the way, 2-hour set in just intense pain, and it is not worth it. So I've learned the hard way to find ways to do things without hurting myself. So number one, lightweight gear. This can be more challenging than you think. Obviously, an 8 or 9 pound guitar isn't great, but hey, playing a hollow body does not hurt. This is what, 7 pounds, 6 pounds, somewhere in there. And having a lighter guitar is helpful, but that's certainly not everything. Of course, sitting down doesn't matter, and I'm pleased to play my heavy tellies and Les Pauls. But really, it comes down to amps, and to me, on the budget end, even not on the budget end, I really like the orange Crush 30 RT. It was close to 25 pounds. It's right in that threshold for me. It's right where I need it to be. But the amp sounds great. It's got a great clean channel. It's got a good dirty channel. But I often will just use it clean with a pedal board. Awesome amp. But the other ones are the Fender Toemaster. I'm not big on the Blackface Deluxe, but if you like that tone, that Deluxe, super loud. It's super loud and works great. And that's 25 pounds. I'll tell you, a lot of the times I go direct in digital. I have tried the Helix and some of those modelers, and I'm just not a fan. They sound great. It's not a sound issue. It's just a user interface issue. I want to have an amp and dial in a tone. So the UAD stuff has been great for me. I have a UAD Ruby that I really enjoy, and most of the time it's bring the guitar and a pedal board in, and if I'm just playing electric, that load in is pretty easy and pretty back friendly. Set the pedal board up and rock and roll. And so as an addendum to this, like when I'm doing solo acoustic gigs, for example, I have my PA. I actually used my mom actually got it for me as a nifty little like foldable hand truck, and man, that thing works great. I put my stuff on that, and I can wheel it in, wheel it out. I can go distances. The thing climbs steps. It's got like 3 little wheels on this system, and it climbs steps like effortlessly. The thing is awesome, and I can get around everywhere with that. I still want to try to keep things lightweight, but I can get my Bose system around on that with that setup. So the next thing, number 2, is to simplify your rig. So having the wet, dry, wet rig probably isn't a good idea unless you have a team of roadies that can bring it in and set it up for you. Fact of the matter is, even stereo, I don't know. I haven't found a need for stereo at all. And you know what? If I was gonna go stereo, it'd be digital anyway. Like what? Just go digital anyway. If you're doing stereo. Why are you bringing in amps? But simplify the rig. Keep the pedal board. I only use small pedal boards, and I kind of narrow down the few pedals I need, and I can use volume and tone knobs on the guitar to get every sound that I'm looking for. But I try to keep. By the way, you should keep a rig as simple as possible, just for reliability's sake. Because if you have a massive pedal board with all kinds of craziness, if one little cable goes bad trying to track it down, when you're going to go on in 5 minutes or you're in the middle of a set, yeah, it's not fun. So keep it simple, stupid is a good philosophy to live by. Whether you have physical restrictions or not. Here's another one. Make sure you load in early. Get to the venue early, load in early, so you can take a moment before you have to perform to like recover. you want to be your best while you're playing. If you're in pain or you're uncomfortable, it's going to come through in the performance. I don't care how good of an actor you are. So get there early, set up early, get everything where it needs to be. Maybe, sit down, have a drink, relax a little bit. It's probably good for if you have nerves, that might help as well. And take a short rest, a 5-minute rest, where you can be comfortable, will do a lot to have you ready to play. Don't be afraid to accept help or even maybe pay for help if the situation arises. I say this, don't be too proud is kind of the idea, but you do have to watch out because, there's always, you always run into that situation. Hey, I'll help you take your amp down, and then you never see that amp again. So you have to be careful. But if you have friends or family or you know somebody and they're like, hey, you need a hand, try to accept it. I know that's a difficult for one. I'm kind of preaching to myself here. But maybe if you are in a situation, maybe you have a well-paying gig, but there's a lot of gear to move around, you have somebody and that you trust, maybe hire them. Maybe give them a cut of the money and say, hey, I will pay you. Help me load in and load out. The next one is this: gig with another artist. So let's say, hey, maybe you'll both do a solo time, or maybe you do a duet instead of a solo gig. You have somebody else to help you load in and load out, which is super helpful. And that's really kind of where the challenges are, loading in and loading out. Of course, finding a singer that maybe isn't a prima donna and that'll be willing to help may be challenging. At any rate, having somebody along with the gig. Now, obviously, in that case, you got to split the money. Hey, man, it's all good. It'll probably be a good show, too. And the last thing I'll leave you with is this: just be creative in finding solutions. I mean, we're musicians, we're artists. Creativity is kind of our thing. We can find a solution to any problem, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. But be smart. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to hurt yourself. Get out and gig. Figure it out. Find a way. I think you can. I mean, I'm doing it. I think you can do it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this helps. And if you have any other tips or tricks, feel free to put them in the comments. I'm sure it will really help out the community to have more. Certainly there's other things that could be done that could maybe make the situation easier. So let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember, it's always about the song. Peace.